Hello, I'm Tracy Reed, Historic Properties Director. In our roles, we care for incredible properties and monuments, whilst at the same time making sure that our visitors have a great time when they come to our properties. We inspire and enrich lives through our passion and storytelling, and every day help our visitors to create really happy memories. Our visitors, members, volunteers, and you, our employees, have a wide range of backgrounds and experience, but we're all connected by one common goal: to experience and share the story of England. Diversity plays a big part of this journey. By working with local community groups, employing a wider demographic of employees and volunteers, and providing an experience which encourages all groups of visitors, we will show that we're welcome to all. This video highlights the importance of delivering an equal experience for everybody, no matter what their race, religion, disability or gender. Everybody is welcome at English Heritage and will be treated as such. You're now going to hear from Savinder Singh, a Senior Advisor in Equality and Diversity, who's going to explain why it's so important for us to meet everybody's needs.
Well, England's story is made of different cultures and ethnic groups arriving on these shores and interacting with the indigenous population as well as each other. So, for example, we're looking at the Saxons, to the Normans, to the Vikings, to the Romans, and Commonwealth and recent migration from Europe. Now, this has added to the diversity and richness of our national identity. And at English Heritage, we bring this story to life to over 10 million people. But we need to be inclusive. We need to ensure that we're actually making this story alive for all sections of our community. And you have a vital role to play in this, to ensure that everybody feels that the story is not only owned by them, that they're actually a part of that story. The demographics of the UK are changing rapidly, by immigration, emigration, changing population, ageing population, varying birth rates, and successful organisations are actually able to say how this demographics change impacts on their market, on their client base, on their customers. And for us, it's about how do we ensure this diversity adds value to what we're doing. And the way we can add value to what we're doing is to ensure that we actually attract a wide range of audience. And to do this, we need to be inclusive at all our sites. And by inclusion, what we mean is the human rights values of fairness, respect, equality and dignity. And putting those into practice when actually we're dealing with not only our visitors, but also our colleagues and volunteers. Well, we want to live in a society where everybody's rights are respected and nobody's been discriminated against. And unfortunately, we're not living in an ideal world, and therefore we need to have legislation to ensure that people aren't discriminated against. And the legislation we have in place was the Equality Act 2010, which protects discrimination against people in terms of gender, race, disability, sexual orientation, age, religion or belief. So for us, what we're actually doing is ensuring that everybody that comes to our site, irrespective of their background or their protected characteristics, can actually enjoy themselves. And that means giving people the opportunity to actually visit our sites to enjoy the rich heritage that's offered to us. So I think we've talked about the moral case. It's important in the society. We need to do things, be inclusive. We've talked about the legal obligations in terms of the Equality Act 2010, but more importantly, what are we judged on from a business perspective? Actually, our performance depends on how many visitors we get through our gates, through our doors. Now, if we're relying on the traditional people who enter our gates, we're going to be stagnant in terms of numbers that are coming in. So by engaging with the communities that surround our sites, we're going to be able to increase the flow of people coming into our sites, increase the number of visitors that are coming into our site, which not only reaches our performance, but also actually, if you think about it, it encourages those people to actually become members of English Heritage, which helps us financially and helps us to be sustainable in the future. So in summary, we have to ensure that all our properties and the work we do is relevant to all sections of society. And I suppose the challenge for all of us is to actually go out there, look at the communities surrounding our sites, and actually how do we engage with them. I think to start off with, I think we do tend to meet our standards all the time, so I think it's not about beating ourselves up. But there are occasions where we don't get it right, and this was one occasion. There's an individual who's a member of English Heritage, along with his wife, was really passionate about heritage and art. And they came to visit one of our sites, and they actually tagged on with a tour. What happened was that this individual, because they were really passionate in terms of what they were interested in, they spent a bit longer than the rest of the group in terms of looking at the various artifacts and sort of art that was around there. As a result of which they were questioned by a staff member in terms of, why are you taking so long? You do realise that we're the group, there's a time constraint, can you please hurry up? Rather than taken to one side, the individual was asked in front of everybody, and they felt a bit humiliated. To make matters worse, when they moved on to the next room, the questions were repeated again, and to the next room as well. So they were repeated on a consecutive basis, and the individual felt actually humiliated. But because they had a passion and an interest and wanted English Heritage to succeed, they actually wrote a letter of complaint, explaining what they went through and hoping that actually this experience would help staff members to ensure that this is not repeated again. I think there's a number of learning points. The first one I think is actually try and put ourselves in the shoes of that individual, and the fact that they've come to a place which is really of interest to them, and they stopped and asked questions. And ask questions in front of everybody. So the first learning point is that if there are concerns, take the individual to one side, communicate to them why you're asking those questions, and then ask those questions in a manner which doesn't seem as though you pointed that individual out. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Ask the questions, but in a sensitive manner. Secondly, I think the important point is actually then communicate that to the rest of staff, to your colleagues. But the reality is that we all have unconscious bias. How do we control those unconscious bias? How do we make ourselves aware, self-awareness of the bias we have? And once we've got self-awareness of that bias, it'll enable us to make better decisions. So in a nutshell, this individual actually felt that because they were Asian, and because of the whole issue around terror, etc., and terrorist activity, they felt that the reason why they were being singled out was because they were Asian, and staff were probably thinking they were Muslim, and hence the reason this individual is actually taking a lot of time, maybe actually scoping out the site itself. Now, this is what the individual actually said to me during the conversation, so I'm not making these things up, but this is how the individual actually felt. So I think, again, that bias, that unconscious bias, was probably based around reading the media, the local environment, the political situation, so all those things come into hand. So to summarise, the important thing is communication is very important in a sensitive manner. And let the individual know the reasons for the questions you're asking, and then communicate to the rest of the team so that individual doesn't go through that problem or that harassment again and again and again. Hopefully I've given you some food for thought and some challenges in terms of what you can actually do, practical steps you can take to take things forward in terms of why diversity and inclusion is important for English Heritage and you as individuals. I suppose the one thing I'd end up with is that irrespective of what individuals' backgrounds are, we need to accept that we're all human beings at the end. And I go back to the human rights values of respect, fairness, respect, equality and dignity, and actually how we put those into practice when we deal with individuals as individuals rather than trying to stereotype people into various boxes. End of the day, we're all in it together.
I hope you found Savinder's words about treating everyone fairly and with respect reassuring. And you appreciate how important being inclusive is to everyone for English Heritage. Please continue to give all of our visitors an exceptional welcome. It would be great to hear your thoughts on how we can involve the local community more in your sites so these places are special for everyone. This will help us grow our visitor numbers, and ensure that English Heritage is the thriving, financially secure and well-loved charity that we want it to be.